There isn't much better than a warm apple cider donut with a fresh cup of coffee on a cool fall morning. And that's what we're making today. So join me. I'll show you how to use simple ingredients in making apple cider donuts in your own home.
Hey friends, welcome back to Simply Home and Harvest. I'm Jen if you're new here, and y'all, it has been a busy day. This is kind of coming toward the end of the day. It's actually 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have been doing so many things today. In fact, you can see bread. We've got homemade hamburger buns and a loaf of bread that we've been working on today. I've been trying to get things cleaned up. I've been editing all day. What else? Oh, just the list goes on. Thankfully, I had a couple of days off of work this week, and I really needed to catch up. After our marriage conference that Tim and I spoke at over the weekend, I was just trying to kind of like, you have those days, like you just come home and you're like, oh my goodness, so much has been neglected. So I'm trying to clean and do laundry and just all the things. But I wanted to get these apple cider donuts made because all of us are kind of going in different directions this weekend. Tim and Alex are going to visit a friend of Tim's close to the beach actually this weekend. I am going with my mom to a women's conference, and Ella is leaving in the morning for Missouri on a work trip. So I'm gonna make some treats for us to take to the conference, but I've been wanting to make these apple cider donuts. I made apple cider donuts last year. I ended up I made them for a bake sale, and they were such a hit for the bake sale that people were asking me to make them and sell them. And so I actually ended up with a little donut side hustle last year. I didn't intend to, but it worked out. But I made a little bit extra money, which was very nice. But I made apple cider donuts, pumpkin donuts. Anyway, the apple cider donuts, I think, were the biggest hit. And so I haven't had the time to make them this year and sell them like I did last year. Maybe I can do that in the next coming weeks. So I'm gonna make some today. I'm gonna show you how I do it. I had been multiplying the recipe times 10 to do like a really big batch. But I don't think I ever showed you like the simple one batch of apple cider donuts. So today I'm actually just gonna double the recipe, but I'm gonna share with you the recipe just to make a dozen donuts for yourself. And this way Ella can have some to take on her work trip tomorrow. There's a lot of them going, so that will give them a nice snack to be able to enjoy during their travels. Okay, let's get busy on these ingredients. All right, guys, this might be a little chaotic, the way I'm having to arrange everything, but we're just gonna go for it. But I will link that recipe down below in case you missed any of these steps. Okay, first thing I did was I needed some apple cider concentrate. Not concentrate. Let me start again. First thing I needed some apple cider reduction. So what I had to do was I started out with 3 cups of apple cider on my stovetop this morning, and I just let it simmer until it evaporated down to 1 cup. That took probably close to an hour, but what it does is it gives it a more concentrated flavor, which it will make your donuts more flavorful. It really brings out that apple cider flavor in the donut. So I've got that there that has cooled. We also need room temperature milk. So we have a cup of room temperature milk here. Remember we are doubling everything. I already spilled this one time. Y'all know how I like to spill milk around here. So hopefully I won't spill it again because we're out of milk. But what I'm gonna do is start on the dry ingredients first and just talk my way through that. I already sprayed all of my donut tins here. And so we've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And now we're gonna add in a teaspoon of baking soda. And I've already used my teaspoon today, so I'm gonna use my half teaspoon and just go in with 2. That's right, we're doubling it. Okay, I gotta remember the math here. So I'm gonna need 4 of these, doubling it. Next, we're going to use baking powder. Now I'm gonna need 1.5 teaspoons of this. So that's gonna be 3 here. 1, 2, and 3. Now our ground cinnamon, and we're gonna need 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. So that'll be 4 of these. We'll bring that cinnamon back out later because we're gonna have a cinnamon sugar topping on these that is gonna be absolutely delicious. All right, next is apple pie spice. Now, I got this at Walmart. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find apple pie spice. You can make your own using, let's see, I've done this before. All right, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice. Cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, that is what makes up apple pie spice. So you don't really have to go out and purchase that if you already got those on hand. All right, we're gonna need 2 teaspoons, so 4 of these. Make sure we get that good apple pie flavor in here. It smells so good, y'all. It smells like fall and Christmas time, Thanksgiving. I'm so excited. All right, and now we're gonna need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So that would mean 1/2 teaspoon for us. I'm gonna use our Himalayan pink salt, which is about all we use around here anymore. And that's all for the dry ingredients. Combine our wet ingredients now. We've got 4 tablespoons of melted butter here. And next, we're gonna add in 2 eggs that are at room temperature. And these were easy to have at room temperature since these are our farm fresh eggs. Temper these in just a little bit because that butter is still hot. We don't want to scramble our eggs. Let me add a little bit of butter in here. Kind of introduce it to our egg a little bit. We're adding it in. All right, we're gonna need 1 cup of packed brown sugar and 1 cup of white sugar. And it looks like we might not make it. We might have to go find some more white sugar. Let's just show you this in case you want to know how to make these homemade hamburger buns and a loaf of bread. I will link that, if I can remember, down in the description box for you. Here's that loaf of bread. Oh, it's gonna be so good. All right. Okay, and back to donuts we go. Multitasking. All right, 1 cup of room temperature milk that made it into the bowl. Hallelujah. And we're also gonna add in a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And close to the end of our vanilla, our homemade vanilla, I'm gonna have to make some more. That's right, we're gonna need 2. That's probably about right. Yep. That jar is done. Okay, next, I'm going to carefully pour this into our dry ingredients. And then we're going to add in our apple cider reduction here.
For this part, you're going to need a good gallon size bag. Now, I have a bag holder here, but if you do not have one of these, you can easily use like a bowl or a mason jar and line that with your gallon size bag as you fill it up with your batter. I find this is a lot easier when trying to fill your donut tin because, having a piping bag gives you more control and it is less messy, in my opinion. So we're going to get that done. And then these are going to go into a preheated 350-degree oven. And they're going to bake in there for about 10 to 11 minutes. Just be sure to watch them and make sure that you don't overcook them. Now, let me just tell you this. This is a very important step. Spray your donut pan with nonstick spray. And also, if you don't have a donut pan, you could try doing this with a muffin tin. You might not get like a hole in the middle, but you could always like punch out a hole to have that donut look. Or you could just, make these into danishes or muffins. It would be just as good. But invest in the donut pan. It's not very expensive. I would suggest getting at least 2 donut pans because that will make your cooking time a lot less. But I'm telling you, if you make that investment, you won't believe how delicious these are and how much money you save yourself in the long run. Because apple cider donuts, buying them at little local places or out and about can be rather expensive if you haven't seen that lately. Also, on this part, be careful not to overfill your mold. I just kind of go around one time and then try to lift up on the bag to create less of a mess for myself. But I have found that when I really do like overfill these, they won't come out as easily and they don't have that hole in the center. Okay, now it's confession time. Do you see these beautiful donuts? Well, let me tell you, they did not come out of the pan. This was a complete disaster. And what you're seeing here is a brand new batch of donuts that I made a few weeks later when I did my big donut order. So I'm telling you from experience, be sure to spray your pan. Not only could I not send these with my daughter, but we could barely get them out of the pan. I had to put them in the freezer. I was able to salvage a few just for us to have here. But what I found out is when I was doubling all the ingredients and trying to film and being in a hurry, I did not double my flour. So if you go back and watch that part of the video, you'll probably see that mistake. And maybe you already did see that mistake. So, I do better when I write down everything that I'm doubling instead of trying to do it as I go along, which has been very helpful when I make these huge batches of donuts and have to multiply the recipe times 10. I have all of that written down already and figured out ahead of time. So there's also a tip for you if you need to extend a recipe. But the good news is these turned out absolutely perfect. Look how easily they're coming out of that pan. They just slide right out. So I do have to wash these each time between batches and then respray them. So if you're making several batches like I am here, be sure to do that as well. Now the finishing process is very simple. We're just going to add some sugar, cinnamon, apple pie spice to a plate here. I'm going to give that a little mix. And then I melted some butter on my stove top. I'm going to brush butter lightly over all of the donuts and then dip them into that cinnamon sugar mixture and then let them rest on a pan just until they completely cool. Then they're ready to be boxed up or put into an airtight container and enjoyed for a few days. Now, they do last about 3 to 5 days. After that, you lack some of that taste and freshness, but these are absolutely wonderful. I've heard back from people who freeze them and then take one out just to have a snack when they need to. So if you don't have as many to share these with and you don't want to eat them all yourself in one day, which you could quite possibly do, they are that good, then you can freeze them and then take them out as you like to have a special treat. All right, well, I'm going to leave you with me finishing up these donuts. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like I said, we had to make it in several parts, and that's what's taken so long to get to you. But these are absolutely delicious. I'm telling you, not only do my family enjoy these, my friends do as well. And I sell out of them every time I offer to make them and sell them. These are so good with a fresh cup of coffee, if that's what you like, or some hot tea, or one of my favorites, hot apple cider with these. Oh my goodness. I think the first time I ever enjoyed an apple cider donut was off a donut truck that used to come into our area, and they had like apple cider slushes. And my daughter and I had an apple cider donut with the slush, and I just fell in love. It was so good, those flavors together. So definitely give these a try. If you do, you'll have to let me know down in the comments below how you like them. And I promise that you are probably never going to want to buy those store-bought donuts again. Well, that's a wrap. So until next time, remember to live simply, use what you have, enjoy the moments you've been given, and I will see you all in the next one.